I just want to be able to share my moment of trans joy on the internet, and if the transphobes are going to be triggered about that, if they're going to deny the reality of lactation, if they're going to deny the reality human beings are mammals, if they can't understand that basic biology, I'm just going to lean even harder into trans joy. So I am officially under attack. Wow, y'all are thirsty to talk about the lactation discourse. Oh my gosh, the transphobes are so triggered. This has been some very interesting discourse from transphobes on Twitter mostly, about the fact that I am working to induce lactation to be able to breastfeed my child. My partner is extremely excited and supportive throughout this entire process. She is somebody that has struggled with lactation and breastfeeding. Seeing my joy in this process and seeing the success that I'm having in this process has been really, really freaking happy for her, and really happy for me too. Like, this is absolutely a big moment of queer joy that we are celebrating together. And it all started when I posted a little TikTok clip where I was announcing that I'm gonna be a mother, and that as part of the process I'm working to induce lactation. Eventually this clip ended up circulating around transphobic Twitter, and I wake up this morning and there's an article about your queen, Mommy Naomi, in the Post-Millennial. Transgender mother announces she took hormones to create milk-like substance from her nipples that she plans to feed to her baby. I can tell you that it's milk. It's so funny, like the lengths that they're going to say that this is not milk. It's literally milk. It's milk, guys. I promise. That is the milk that I pumped just before stream started. What's really funny about this article is that all it is summarizing 3 TikToks of mine. Cow achievement, announced a woman with curly purple hair gleefully on TikTok. She could barely contain her enthusiasm over the results of a new treatment that induced her female breasts to produce a substance vaguely resembling breast milk. It is breast milk. It's breast milk. Trans women can indeed lactate, the woman claims, smoothing her multicolored magenta bangs. You would follow the Newman-Goldfarb protocol. This is a method designed to help women lactate and was developed in 2020. That's factually incorrect. The Newman-Goldfarb protocol, it was a medical protocol designed to help women lactate. It was designed for adoptive mothers who were not going to have their kids biologically, but wanted to lactate their children nonetheless. It was invented in 2000. I don't know where they got 2020 from in this article, but it was not developed in 2020. It was developed in 2000. I thought that maybe they would have gone with. There was a case report of a trans woman who induced lactation, which I cited, but the case report was in 2018. So I guess I'm really curious how this protocol was developed 2 years after it was adopted for trans women in 2018. Like, the journalistic integrity of this is so bad. I'm gonna be a mother, she announces. That's in the works, in the process, and part of that process that I'm working to induce lactation so that I'm able to breastfeed our youngest child. Yeah, actual Mommy Naomi, says the TikToker, who goes by nominal.naomi, and tag the post #transjoy. I've actually already successfully induced lactation. Like, I can actually make milk now. Cry and seethe, transphobes. Here is the milk. Whatever nominal.naomi is secreting from her female breasts, however, is not mother's milk. Can they tell me what it is? There is no evidence to suggest that females who ingest estradiol, progesterone, spironolactone, and domperidone, which is not on the market in the US, produce the nutrient-rich nourishment provided by actual women who actually mother and nurse their young. By the way, I'm not taking spironolactone, so that's also factually incorrect about me, but to suggest that there's no evidence that we have examined the nutrients of trans women's milk, there was a peer-reviewed journal article that came out recently. Look at this. Lactation induction in a transgender woman. Macronutrient analysis and patient perspectives. Here was actually the table of the nutrients in the trans woman's milk compared to control milk. And what's really funny is that every nutrient, the trans woman's milk was better than the control milk provided by a cis woman. More proteins, more fats, more lactose, more calories. And what the study says is the participants' milk showed values of protein, fat, lactose, and calorie content at or above those of standard term milk. The trans woman's milk was better than cis women's milk. And this is actually consistent with the literature we have on induced lactation, even in cis women. There is some... Here's some peer-reviewed literature. Essentially, what has been shown consistently is that women who induce lactation, their milk actually tends to be more nutrient-dense than women who lactate naturally as a result from pregnancy. And so it would make sense that a trans woman would also have that more nutrient-dense milk. I mean, we have studies which show that trans women's breasts, like the actual breast tissue in trans women's breasts, is biologically histologically identical to that of cis women. This study essentially studied the breasts of trans women under a microscope, and they compared it to cis men who had been castrated, and they also compared it to cis women who had naturally developed their breasts. In trans women who had estrogen and progesterone, full acinar and lobular function formation, with hormonally stimulated nuclei and pseudo-lactational changes. That is everything to mimic the natural histology of the female breast. Transphobes always talk about basic biology. Why do they think that human beings are called mammals? It's because we have mammary glands. Like, regardless if you're born male or female, in most cases you're born with mammary glands. You're born with everything that you would need to be able to make milk. It's actually even possible for cis men to make milk sometimes. And we even have studies on the nutrients of the milk within cis men that cis men have produced. Here was a study back from 1981 on a cis man who produced milk, and the concentrations of lactose, proteins, and electrolytes in the breast secretion of this man are within the range of colostrum in milk obtained from normal lactating women. Even cis men's breast milk has the same nutrients as cis women's breast milk. Milk is milk, transphobes. Which is a very interesting and very cool experience. It's like very biologically affirming too, she giggles, which is something that's like gatekept from trans women. Like so difficult. Yeah, it is definitely very true that any kind of like biological experience related to womanhood is gatekept so hard from trans women. Here's one right here. There's my breast milk. Nominal Naomi appears to believe that women are keeping motherhood from trans women by possessing natural breasts that naturally produce milk upon the conception, gestation, and birth of our young. No, that's not what I believe. What I believe is that people who are being transphobic, who are harassing me, and writing inflammatory articles where they claim that there's no evidence that my milk has nutrients, despite evidence literally existing, which I cite, inflammatory articles which don't even know the year that the Newman-Goldfarb protocol was developed, that people are going to do this, that people are going to harass me, that I have been called a child abuser, I have been called a groomer for wanting to breastfeed my child. That's what I'm talking about when I say that this kind of stuff is gatekept from trans women. I mean, we can even talk about, like, Mr. Beast's friend Chris, and how she was going to continue to raise her kid. Like, people tried to gatekeep even parenthood from her just on the basis of her being trans. This stuff is gatekept from trans people so hard, not for biological reasons, because of transphobia. And now the article gets really funny. But Nominal Naomi has other interests as well, including weird sex stuff and keeping telling women about their cis privilege. That's a banger line right there. I do have other interests, like weird sex stuff and telling women about their cis privilege. I am a freedom-loving American, Nominal Naomi quips in another TikTok, a response to Daily Wire's Michael Knowles, and if I want to do weird sex stuff, who are you to take my freedom to life, liberty, and the pursuit of high-speed rail away from me? Who wants to live in a country where you're not allowed to do weird sex stuff? What kind of American would be like, anal sex makes me uncomfortable, therefore, I don't think any American should be allowed to have anal sex. I mean, come on, what is wrong with you? She continues. It is somebody's American freedom to get railed in the ass if they want to. So for a little bit of context on these statements, Michael Knowles was trying to argue that banning books is a very American thing because we used to have laws which banned books. And he made the analogy of we also used to have laws which say like banned sodomy or banned consenting adults from practicing sex in the way that they wished. I'm arguing against that, saying that yes, it is your American freedom to get railed in the ass if you want to. And I quite frankly, I think that it's un-American to suggest that somebody's desire to get railed in the ass, like stopping somebody from exercising their freedom is where your freedom begins. No, that is anti-American. Michael Knowles is anti-American. And now they switch gears again. Many expectant mothers all across America likely miss the section in What to Expect When You're Expecting about the priority of making sure they can get railed in the ass as part of their constitutionally protected rights as a woman, a mother, and an American. So in order to just clear up any confusion, me talking about like wanting to breastfeed is completely different than me talking about sex stuff. If you're a woman who is lactating and breastfeeding your child, you can do that. You can lactate and feed your child, and then later, like when the child is put to bed, you can have hot consensual sex with your smoking hot wife. Like, you can do both. They're not mutually exclusive. I'm gonna be a rather enlightened woman. I'm going to live my life and do all the things I want to do because that's my American freedom. But real women are of little concern or consequence to Nominal.Naomi, who takes issue with them for what she calls their cis privilege. In another clip, she can be heard arguing with a woman over just who has it worse in the US, women or trans women, as a means of fulfilling their sexual fetishes. I don't know where, like, sexual fetishes came from in that clip, because that clip definitely didn't have anything to do with sexual fetishes. But this was a clip where I was talking about the existence of cis privilege with, like, a TERF, and she denied that cis privilege even existed. It's so funny. This article, which is, like, trying to demean me for wanting to be a mother, is trying to also take issue with the idea of cis privilege. This article literally shows how much cis privilege there is in cis mothers. If a cis mother wants to induce lactation to be able to breastfeed her child, nobody bats an eye. But when a trans woman does it, I get an article about me in the Post-Millennial that's, like, full of factually incorrect information, that slanders me, that brings up the fact that I like anal sex. Like, if a cis woman talked about lactating, you would not see an article about them in the Post-Millennial talking about their love of anal sex. That's cis privilege right there. That literally is cis privilege. You don't think there's any privilege in being cisgender? She asks the caller, who sounds absolutely exasperated. What would the privilege of being cisgender be? The woman asks incredulously. She deflects. You made the claim that I don't know what it feels like for you to be afraid of men. She says, you did make that claim. No, you can't, the woman says with authority. You can't. You can't fully understand. You haven't lived. You don't have the female experience. You don't. You will never know what it's like to fully be a woman. You will never know, because you're not. Nominal Naomi counters that trans women are at greater risk of predatory men who see me as a woman, and if they find out I'm trans, she says, they're probably going to treat me worse than a cis woman because I'm a trans woman, and that's the reality of the situation. There's also the trans panic defense, where if a trans woman is killed in such a situation, you can get off legally for killing the trans woman by claiming that she tricked you. You can't get off for killing a cisgender woman for claiming she tricked you, but you can for a transgender woman. That's the trans panic defense, and that's another example of cisgender privilege. She also takes aim at the idea that she had male privilege, which is what, in progressive terminology, puts someone at the bottom of the oppression hierarchy and therefore unable to claim any benefit of victimization. I literally, in the clip, say that I used to have male privilege. That's not what progressives believe about male privilege. What progressives believe is that moving through society, being perceived and treated as a man, you're going to have some intrinsic privileges or just benefits in ways that people treat you. Like, for example, taking what you say more seriously. I'm a woman in STEM, and I can tell you that before transition versus after transition, people would just, like, listen to me more when I was presenting as a man, when people perceive me as a man. Nowadays, like, people don't take what I say as seriously in, like, engineering talks. We even actually have sociological research on trans men and their experiences before and after transitioning, and how people, like, actually start to take them seriously, listen to what they say, perceive them as experts in their field, promote them more after transitioning. Like, this is observed in the sociological research even. You also brought up the idea of, like, male privilege. Nominal Naomi tells the woman, your concerns about privilege are just completely disingenuous. All this time, you were trying to call me out for possessing male privilege in the past, which is something that I recognize. She takes aim at the idea that she had male privilege, which is something that I recognize. The article contradicts itself a sentence later, which is something that I no longer possess, while you yourself still having a cisgender privilege which you carry with you every day. That's ridiculous, the woman says. To Nominal Naomi, it is a privilege to realize that there are biological limitations to one's body, when in fact, determining that she is not limited by reality, but can achieve fantastical heights, is the greater and more delusional privilege. So I don't even know what this statement is trying to say, but I do realize that there are biological limitations to my body. Like, for example, I can't get pregnant, but I can lactate. It's right here. It's right here. Of course, it is the ultimate in male privilege to assume that you can be female, can take the place of a natural mother by ingesting drugs to induce lactation. Okay, also the idea that I'm taking the place of a natural mother, I'm literally co-parenting with the child's biological mom, and she's not even lactating anymore. Like, the baby in question, she's 9 months old, She's starting to branch out into some solid foods. We're just trying to supplement her current regimen of formula and sometimes some solid foods with my breast milk. Like, I'm not trying to take anybody's place. I'm just trying to supplement the nutrients for my baby. And, like, this is a lot of work. Like, it's a lot of work to pump every day, multiple times a day, to take medicine that is changing my body to be able to lactate. I'm doing this for my kid to be able to supplement their nutrition. Because, like, right now, they weren't getting breast milk until I started lactating for them. Can feed the baby a fake, drug-induced milk? Milk from the body? It's how is it fake? Like, it looks pretty real to me. All because you wish it, and to further claim that it is society and not biology that is keeping you from living out this fetish for all the world to see. It's not a fetish. It's my child's food, or at least a supplement to my child's food. Yeah, and it is society that is trying to demean me for being a motherhood, not biology. My biology is cooperating quite nicely in this instance. It's not a fetish, ma'am, it's milk. Ma'am, it's my child's food. I saw somebody ask about, like, how long it takes to induce lactation. Yeah, I can talk a little about that process. So I started taking a galactolog, which is a medicine that raises prolactin levels in order to be able to lactate. And I was producing, like, drops of colostrum within, like, 1 day after starting my galactolog. And I was pumping, like, 3 times a day at the beginning. I'm still pumping 3 times a day. 4 days, I was now producing, like, kind of a milk, like a combination of, like, milk and colostrum, where it was, like, sometimes, like, a slightly milky white colostrum, other times, like, a couple drops of milk mixed with colostrum. By, like, about the 1 week mark, it was, like, solidly milk all the time of what was coming out. These days, I can make about an ounce of breast milk a day, pumping 3 times. Usually, you can end up making, like, quite a bit more if you keep on doing this process for months. So the protocol which I'm following is going to involve slowly ramping up my hormones and my galactologs over the period of about 2 months, and then afterwards dropping down my hormones significantly. In the one case report of a trans woman who induced lactation, she was able to produce up to 8 ounces of milk a day, that's like moderate. Like, my goal has never been to be the sole source of nourishment for my child, because, like, she's already on formula and is already branching out into some solid foods. She's 9 months old. But yeah, I'm gonna see how much I can produce. If she's able to latch onto me, that's great. If she's not and it can only be bottle fed, that's also a-okay. I just want to do what's going to make her happiest and healthiest, and I know about all of the profound benefits and nutrients that are in milk that have been shown in the peer-reviewed literature in trans women's milk. And I just want that for my kid. Happy to explain the process, for sure, for sure. Andy Ngo, who is the editor of the Post Millennial, said that a hashtag trans activist, who is a biological transsexual female, celebrated on a TikTok video that she is able to secrete a fluid from her chest. She says she will feed that to her child. All of them have to act like it's not milk when it is literally milk. Like, that's what milk looks like, my dude. So I clapped back, saying, just finished my morning pumping, and I can confirm for you that it is indeed breast milk. I can cite peer-reviewed journal articles about lactation in trans women, but they might be too hard for you to read because your post-millennial is written at an elementary school level. And I had this very cute selfie of me with my morning pumping. And then down here, I cited multiple case reports of trans women lactating, as well as another study on kind of like the medical practice itself. And the transphobes have been getting so mad at all of these things that are going on. We had Clown World that posted my clip saying just WTF. And in the comments is people just being insanely inflammatory, harassing, misgendering me. There was even some TERFs that were, like, circulating this around that were trying to dox me to be able to, like, call Child Protective Services. I thought that what was so strange about this phenomenon is I kept seeing TERFs that were talking about my lactation, and it shows just, like, how self-hating they are. It's, like, so sad that they see their womanhood as an experience of, like, disgust and self-hatred that is so intense, when, like, lactation, motherhood, womanhood can be things to be celebrated. These can be moments of joy. This TERF said, just found out she's doing private adoption. By the way, I'm not doing private adoption. I'm going to be adopting my partner's kids from a previous marriage. So that's not private adoption. Now tell me, if a real woman tried to adopt a baby and take a plethora of drugs to induce lactation, By the way, it's only one drug, a galactalog. So she can breastfeed the child that's not biologically hers. Would that be allowed? Or is it just perverted trans women who can do that? The protocol I'm following, the Newman-Goldfarb protocol, it was designed for cis women who wanted to induce lactation to be able to breastfeed their adoptive kid. Like, that's literally what it was designed for. The answer is yes. It's actually very common for women to induce lactation to breastfeed their adopted kids. And that's exactly what the protocol I'm following was designed for. I am following a slightly modified version of the protocol. It's slightly modified for like trans women. Typically, the way that it differs between trans women and cis women is that in cis women, they have them take hormonal birth control in order to mimic kind of like the pregnancy levels of hormones. Meanwhile, for trans women, they typically just alter the hormone replacement. Excuse me. For trans women, they usually just alter the hormone replacement therapy that they're already taking to raise the levels higher and then lower. Meanwhile, for the cis women, they'll be like, take hormonal birth control, then stop taking it. So it's very, very similar. And then there was this other self-hating turf that said, womb transplants, transsexual lactation and breastfeeding. All of this shit is so dystopian. It makes women into a curated experience, a product ready to be purchased and consumed en masse. What if we just, like, liked women instead of, like, thinking that more women existing or female experiences existing is something dystopian? What if we could just, like, lift each other up and celebrate womanhood, celebrate motherhood, celebrate my baby being supplemented with more nutrients, rather than, like, being a piece of shit and tearing each other down? There is so much joy to be had in motherhood, in breastfeeding, in all of this. I am so happy to be able to feed my child, to be, like, you can see the trans joy on my face. You can see the little baby loving it. I also have this picture of me feeding my child. Just so beautiful. Like, this is a moment of beauty. This is a moment of joy. And the fact that they can't see it, they are missing out so, so hard.